I was a villain as far as a lead goes.
Bachelor Clayton Eckard.
Clayton Eckard has found love, although you could say the finale didn't exactly go down as planned.
I got thousands of messages telling me to kill myself, telling me I'm not good enough, telling me I'm a piece of shit, telling me everything under the sun. I'm ugly, stupid. I mean, you name it, it was said to me. And in that moment, I remember thinking, wouldn't it just be easier if I just, ended it all? I started having those, those suicidal thoughts. I was a puppet. Those producers could have told me anything. And ultimately, they just knew that if you talk to him long enough, he'll do it. You just got to get enough people to frame something in a way where he'll see the light. Just remember sitting there thinking, you got two options, man. You can sit in this corner and cry and feel bad for yourself and no one would blame you. Or you can finally maybe start building the life that you want that's authentically you. You feel like the world's against you, so what do you have to lose?
What advice do you have for the world and men that think they're too macho to do the work that you've started to do around mental health?
My advice would be to just
Clayton Eckard, welcome to the Rollercoaster Podcast, my man.
I'm curious if this is going to be a roller coaster. This is. I'm excited. I walked into a little bit of unknown, but here we go. We're going to have some fun.
So for those listening and not watching, most of the world probably now recognizes your name because of one specific thing, which is The Bachelor, right?
Yeah, of all things I've been known for, that's probably the number one.
That's the big one.
There's a few close behind.
So Clayton was The Bachelor a couple of years ago. But I want to be very careful with sort of identifying you as the Bachelor. Okay, so for the audience who doesn't know you, who are you? Who is Clayton Eckard?
Oh, you're coming out the gate strong, man. I love it already. Because it gives me a little bit of goosebumps. I tell people that The Bachelor is something I did. It's not who I am. That's something that I feel like I constantly am explaining. Because who I am is, I'm just someone that just wants to be happy and is looking to try to emit positivity out to as much as the world as I can through sharing my own story. That's who I am today. As far as the things that I do, it really just shifts so much. So I refrain from telling people, well, here's the things that I do. I can tell you what I'm doing. I'm an agent, real estate agent. I do solar sales. I'm a mental health advocate. But the truth is that, who knows if I'll be those things in 5 or 10 years. Yeah. Who I am today, right now, is, an energy source, a person that just wants to be able to give out to as many people as I can. Because around the right people, they fuel me, and just emitting positivity, sending it back. That's what I am.
That's beautiful. I think too often, right, in society, and I was guilty of this for a long time, when people get to know you and they say, tell me about yourself, you go into what you do immediately. Yeah. Well, I'm a real estate agent. I do social media. I do this. I do that. And I'm tired of that. I'm tired of listening to that, right? I actually want to know, who are you? What is at your core? What is your identity? Yeah. And I think we need to start normalizing that conversation more.
1,000%, because the danger is that everyone that tells you what they do, they're labeling themselves, and that's a finite label. There's an endpoint to a lot of those things. I struggled with this in my life, where I was the Bachelor and then I wasn't. I was a football player and then I wasn't. Yeah. So on the other side of that, when I no longer was those things, it became, well, who am I? Yeah. So I had an identity crisis at every single step when those were no longer. Yeah. And that's where I think people struggle, because when they lose that, they go, well, now who am I? And they have this question. And I asked myself that. And I got to this place, where recently I said, okay, I want to be able to put a label on me that holds true from my very first till my last breath. And I was looking for some extensive, labeling. I was like, it has to be something, because I'm a very complex human being. It's got to be something really long and thought out. But then it just hit me. I was like, you know what? It's simpler is better. I am me. I was like, that's my label. I'm just me. I will always be me from the beginning to the end and all the way in between. As far as what that looks like, it can take many different forms. But I guess I still haven't maybe fully conceptualized it, because when you asked me that question, that's probably the first person that straight up asked me and said, hey, preface it by saying, I don't want you to tell me what you did. I want you to tell me who you are. I haven't had anyone ask me that question. And so I kind of struggled my way through that telling you. And I think at the very simplest, I'm like, oh, I have to keep it very generalized because that's the way I feel it is now. How do I, explain myself in a way that doesn't get too specific and basically pigeonholes me in one area? So I guess that's why I said the ball of energy that's meant to make people happy. That's the best way I can describe it. I'm just trying to give off energy and then reciprocate it back. And I think whatever you give, whatever you put out comes back to you, right? Like that's just, I think that's a law of energy or something along those lines.
Man, this is awesome. I told you I coach a few CEOs, right? Mm-hmm. And probably 80% of the coaching that I do is leadership management. It's business related coaching and 20% is life-based coaching. Mm-hmm. I would like that to be a little bit more balanced because I think there are things in our life that are foundational for being a great leader, manager, name the thing in business, right? One of the frameworks that I led our last men's retreat through was called the I am statement. Mm-hmm. I'm going to share this with you because I think you'll find a lot of value in this. And I'd love you to go home and consider doing this, okay? Yeah. So the I am statement starts like this. You start out by doing an exercise called the inner critic, okay? And the idea behind the inner critic is all of us have a voice inside that is a critic that tears ourselves down. We all have it. We wake up, we look in the mirror, I'm fat, I'm not good enough, I'm not rich enough, I'm late, whatever the thing is. Mm-hmm. And we are our own worst enemy and our own worst critic, right?
Absolutely.
The next part of the framework says, well, what are the opposites to the things that our inner critic says? I'm fat, I'm in great shape. I'm ugly, you look beautiful. I'm this, right? So then it's actually using this as like a counterattack to the inner critic. Mm-hmm. And then it's documenting the I am statement. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the I am statement goes something like this. And I'm going to do you care if I read mine to you?
No, absolutely.
I think this will provide some inspiration to you. Okay. You mentioned one thing, which is I bring a lot of energy, I bring a lot of love, and I love that. That's just a small part of you, though. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot more, okay? Here's mine, Clayton. I am a child of God with potential beyond human imagination. I'm a father of 4 sacred children and a husband to a loving wife. I'm a machine. My habits and routines can't be broken. I'm a man of my word. I do what I say I'm going to do. I'm a doer. Watch my feet, not my lips. I'm a long game player, not distracted by instant gratification. I'm an acceptor of people. My ability to judge does not exist. I lift others and always bring good energy. I don't take things personally because I know who I am. Full of love for my fellow man. Even tempered because I stay present. A calm and kind man, but not to be taken lightly. My sword is sheathed and will only be used if absolutely necessary. Called to change the lives of millions of men through my example.
So gosh, it encapsulates so much. And I think it's incredibly powerful. As I listen to you say all that, there's almost no sense or no doubt that you know who you are. And it makes me reflect because I mentioned to you I was looking for something long and drawn out, and I end up picking something that was so simplistic. Yeah. I would say that is contrasted to what you just did, what you just explained. Yeah. And I find that fascinating because we talked briefly before we started going live here, and the success that you've accumulated, the person that you are today. You seem like you have an aura of just peace about you, and you're driven, and what you just gave me was, in contrast to what I gave you. Yeah. And I know that things work differently for different people, but I would also say, as I heard you just say all that, it made me realize that I had this thought in my head that, well, maybe you don't know who you are still. Maybe you picked I am me because you can't put to words what you really are at this moment. You're still finding that. That was what was in my head as you were reading that. And I think a lot of my life, I built up trying to impress other people. I became a people pleaser at a young age. And then I thought, well, how do I make myself seem valuable to those around me? Part of it was building up a physical image, and then putting that physical image to use, which was football. And then I started to be able to fill that void of not feeling good enough in the eyes of women at a young age where I was friend zoned. Football kind of naturally brought that attention to me. I was always chasing external validation. And recently I've really gotten to this whole mindfulness sector, and I've been listening to my thoughts and giving them weight. But I find it interesting that, again, you can't just overcome that past. I mean, you have to constantly work toward it. I do wonder if maybe me trying to make it simplistic isn't doing myself a service. It's a disservice. Yeah. Because on one end, I see where I'm coming with the I am me statement. I don't want to categorize myself. I want to be able to allow myself to be something or whatever I choose to be. But I think at some point, that's where I'm stuck right now, is I'm basically just generalizing everything. And therefore, I can't narrow down who I am, because I'm just leaving the door open for any possibility.
Man, thank you.
Oh, thank you, because that just hit me in this moment. I'm like, I think I'm going about it the wrong way for myself.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate you being humble and being willing to say that. I want to try something. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to pull your phone out. Do you have your phone?
Sure.
I want you to think about the 3 people in your life who you're the closest to, who know you the best. Okay.
Okay.
Think about those 3. And then I want you to write the following text message and send it right now to each of them. Okay?
Okay.
This is what you're going to write. You're going to say, please describe me the way you would describe me to a stranger who doesn't know me. Please be as detailed as possible. And if possible, send within the next 30 minutes. You could say you're on a podcast or you're doing an exercise or something like that. Okay.
Please describe me the way you describe me to a stranger who doesn't know me at all. Be as thorough as possible. Okay.
And then copy that and send it to the other 2. At the end, I'm going to circle back on this.
Okay.
And we're going to close the loop on the I am statement. Okay.
So, okay. This will be interesting, because I wonder what they're going to say. I honestly don't know.
Here's the power in this, okay, as you finish doing that, and for the audience who's listening. The power in this is, a lot of times it's really difficult for us, again, because we're our own worst critic, to come up with who we are at our core and our identity. The external validation actually helps a lot, but only for the people who know you best at your core, right? And so what this is going to do, I recommend doing it with 5 people for sake of time in the exercise today. Just choose 3. But once you compile that data, Clayton, you've got 5 of the closest people who know you the best. Mm-hmm. They've all, and they'll be descriptive, watch. They've all spelt out, this is who you are. This is how I would describe you to a stranger. You start to see patterns. And people will be using the same adjectives and the same stories and the same things to describe you. And then you go, they're right. That is who I am. Let me add that to my I am statement. Mm-hmm. Let me add this one. Next thing you know, you've got 6 or 7 things. And then really you start to feel the confidence and like, this is my identity. This is who I am. Okay. So I'm curious to see how they respond.
Yeah. And I want to add a 4th person in, just because right now, now that we're talking about this, I think there's an individual. Some of these individuals, I think, they're going to be very brief with their words, just because they're very close to me, but we didn't really take a deep dive into mental health. 2 of them are my brothers. So I did, my 2 brothers, I just sent one to my mom because she's heard me talk more times than anyone else ever has. So as far as someone that knows my thoughts, I mean, she's heard me say more words than anybody else. My one good friend from college, he'll be very descriptive, but it'll be interesting to see, because some of these individuals, we didn't have those mental health discussions. So they may be a little bit more guarded with their approach, whereas, a few others will probably give a more thorough answer. So I'm excited. I honestly don't know what to expect. So I'm excited we did this. Yeah.
You've talked a lot about mental health, not only on this episode, but you spent a lot of time on your social media digging into this, right? I find that people who advocate for anything, specifically, it could be addiction, it could be mental health. They've got their own experience dealing with it, right? So tell me about when your battle with mental health started.
Yeah, as far as like pinpointing a start point, seventh grade. I was 12, 13 years old. It was kind of interesting to see that I was backed up by a lot of scientific findings stating that a lot of individuals begin to struggle with their mental health around that age, which I found out many years later. But for me, that was when I started to compare myself to others. And back then, my sense of value was intertwined within relationships and sports. I think as a kid, you don't have much else. You're not having to pay the bills. That's covered by your family. They're the ones that are putting a roof over your head, food on the table. Your sense of self really is wrapped up in the people that you're around and then what skill set you may have. And sports are everything for me in my hometown. So I wasn't good in the realm of sports. I was a 4-string quarterback freshman year of high school. When I was on JV as a junior, my brother, who was 2 years younger than me, was starting varsity as a freshman. So I took a lot of heat from that, from all my teammates telling me to quit, saying it's an embarrassment that your younger brother's starting on varsity and you still haven't made varsity yet, as you're 2 years older. And then, in 7th grade, I came from a Lutheran school, went to a public school, and I was, the new kid on the block. I made friends with everybody, like a lot of the girls. But what happened was I ended up basically becoming all of their really good friends. And so when hormones hit in freshman year of high school, I was known as Big Brother. That was my nickname, and I hated it. And it was endearing in their eyes. They were like, "Oh, he's such a sweet kid," but nobody wanted to date me that I wanted to date. And so I just didn't feel good enough. That's all it took. Didn't feel like I was good enough in sports or relationships, and that's all I felt like I had. That's the only places that I placed value within. So I said, well, if I don't have either of these things, then I have no value myself. So I went on a mission to try to impress people, and that took the form of, well, what can I control? And I thought, okay, I'm not good enough in football, so I guess I just got to get bigger, stronger, faster. And so that's where I started to just grind. In the gym for 2 hours a day, and I was like, I just got to get bigger. I got to put in more work than anybody else. And I became obsessed with the gym. And it was an unhealthy obsession at points. I had body dysmorphia because, again, people pleaser, didn't feel good enough. So the way my body looked I thought, if my body doesn't look like these people on social media, then I won't be accepted. I got to have the washboard abs. I got to have the chiseled body. Otherwise, I'm wasting my time. Why am I in the gym? So I went on this mission to just construct this physical specimen. And I did. And, the tough part is that it actually brought validation, and that external validation did stick for quite some time. So I thought, well, good, you did it. You got what you were looking for. But then eventually it fades. It's all just, I kept meeting new people. So they would give me that validation, external validation, that I'd meet more people because I was in an environment that was college football. I was, in college meeting a lot of new people. So I kept getting fed that validation. But then eventually it just started to run dry. And I started running around the same crowds. And it was like, wait, I'm not getting that same validation anymore. Why do I feel empty? It's because all of my validation was based upon, fleeting, moments of validation from strangers that I didn't care about truthfully, whether or not how they felt about me, but I thought I did. Yeah. So my struggles began back in 7th grade. They just kept manifesting. They kept taking different forms. My people pleasing, just ended up being, I would just bow to whatever someone told me to do. And that took place on the show as well. I was a puppet. Those producers could have told me anything. And ultimately, they just knew that if you talk to him long enough, he'll do it. You just got to get enough people to frame something in a way where he'll see the light. And I'd sacrifice my morals and values more than I wanted to, just because all I needed was, you just need to get past that magic number of people to tell me to do something, I'd do it.
Man, there's a lot there. When do you feel like you hit a mental rock bottom that maybe felt insurmountable to come back from?
It was definitely, these last 2 years, it just feels like the show that just never ends. When I came off the show, I was at one of my lowest points. I was actually at the finale of my season. So they filmed for 2 months, and then there's a 4-month delay, and then they film like the final 2 episodes. One's like live, and then one is filmed a week prior. But my finale, I was a villain as far as a lead goes. I was not a well liked lead. Half the audience kind of understood where I was coming from. The other half despised me. I was very polarizing, which made for great television, but didn't work well for someone that didn't even know himself and truly just wanted everyone to like him. It really wrecked me. I got thousands of messages telling me to kill myself, telling me I'm not good enough, telling me I'm a piece of shit, telling me everything under the sun. I'm ugly, stupid. I mean, you name it, it was said to me. And in that moment, I remember thinking, I had a thought of, wouldn't it just be easier if I just, ended it all? I started having those, those suicidal thoughts. But I ultimately had such great support around me that I was like, no, like, you're not going to do that to the people around you. Like, you're going to fight and you're going to claw your way back out of this. But you got to build up an image of yourself that you actually want to be, not for anybody other than yourself. And so, up until that point, I built what I thought would be impressive, but it wasn't who I actually wanted to be. It was just like, hey, is this impressive enough? If it is, I'll just keep being this person. But, you are what you attract. And so I kept attracting people I didn't want in my life. And I was wondering why. And then it hit me one day when, I got my ego, beaten to a pulp by the Bachelor Nation. And I just remember sitting there thinking, like, you got two options, man. You can either try to, you can sit in this corner and cry and feel bad for yourself and no one would blame you. Or you can, get up out of the corner, and you still have two options from that point. You can try to build back up an image of what you think is impressive to others, which, again, here you are after building it up after all this time, and it's still not good enough. Or you can finally maybe start building the life that you want, that's authentically you. You already feel like the world's against you, so what do you have to lose? I mean, you feel like everyone hates you, so you might as well just build back up who you are, and maybe like 4 or 5 people will like you more, and that's better than where you're currently at. So I needed to get knocked down to like the very bottom at my lowest moment, where I felt like the only way I can go is up. But I made that decision in that moment. I said, hey, let's build something that you actually want to be and see where that takes you. Because what you built in the past just keeps getting you put in a spot where you don't want to be.
Yeah. This topic of mental health, man, I appreciate being willing to just open up about it, because it's incredibly important. And I think this is a subject that still in 2024 is taboo, specifically among men. Mm-hmm. What advice do you have for the world and men that think they're too macho to do the work that you've started to do around mental health?
My advice would be to just take your ego and hold it accountable, because my ego was so warped with toxic masculinity. Growing up, I was in a culture of it. Football is a very toxic masculine environment. It's a gladiator sport, and it's all about basically the person across the line from you. I'm going to overpower you, and that if I do that, then we win. And that's really what it is. You put two teams against each other, and it's who's going to be bigger, faster, and stronger, and basically just beat the other down to the point where like they lose. So that was the mindset. And, I was told, don't express yourself. Men don't cry, real men, they can handle their emotions. And if you got an issue, and you're dealing with something, take it out on somebody else, either hit someone harder on the football field, go hit a punching bag, go lift weights, lift heavier weight. That's how you deal with it. But it's just not. It's not how you deal with it. I kept suppressing all of those other emotions. I thought, okay, tears, like that's womanly. Having anxiety, that's womanly. I remember someone told me that they would have panic attacks, and it's an ex-girlfriend, and I said, well, how about you just stop thinking about it? I don't have these things because I don't think about it. It was such an ignorant comment. But it was, I never had them because I was forcing myself to suppress all these feelings. And so I felt terrible, but I was like, well, I don't have panic attacks because I don't think about it. And I was like, no, but I had this sense of discomfort that I carried all throughout my life, and it just kept piling up. What you don't address, you suppress, and what you suppress just builds up and manifests into something else. You can't just run from the things that hurt you internally. You can't just expect time to pass and then you overcome it. If you never address it, you'll never overcome it, and it's just going to take a different form. So my advice is address it, and if you got to address it in secrecy because you're afraid that, you're going to be seen as less of a man, there are plenty of avenues where you can start to address your mental health without anyone ever finding out. Journaling, it's a great one. But it's funny because I'll tell men to journal and they'll be like, you mean write in a diary? And the words matter, but they'll hear journal and they'll say diary? Women write in diaries. And I said, okay, well then just call it a journal. If you call it a journal, would you write in it? Yeah, sure.
A piece of paper.
Piece of paper, right? I mean, but again, these words matter because we have these connotations attached to the words. Yeah. And so, again, my advice is just start listening to the way you feel. Start checking in with yourself and start taking the steps. And if you want to do it in secrecy, fine, but just try. And if it doesn't work, then fine. Then, give it some time though. But I guarantee you're going to open up a can of worms that you're like, wait, I didn't expect to go there with this. Yeah.
It's amazing. I want to go a layer deeper on that one, right? Okay. So you said you got to just try. Mm-hmm. You got to check in. You got to do the work. I think there's lots of types of things that we can do to address mental health, right? Things like journaling, I think, is a great example. There's other modalities that you could add to your morning routine, for example, which would help you mentally. Things like cold plunging, right? Mm-hmm. There's great studies on the norepinephrine that it sends to the brain, which increases your mood naturally, mm-hmm. right? Sauna has similar benefits. Working out has similar benefits. Mm-hmm. Eating clean has similar benefits. There's other modalities like breath work or plant medicine, right? There's all these things that we can be taking advantage of. So if you had to sort of write the playbook, right? And maybe it's the one that's worked for you, and that's fine. And that's not a one size fits all, I get it. But if you had to write the playbook for, here's how you take back control of your mental health and start being authentic to who you really are, mm-hmm. what does that look like?
Yeah, I think things that you touched on, I implement it. I would say I do something called protecting my mornings with dopamine. So first thing I do, I wake up, I go straight to the gym. So I get up at 5 a.m. and I'm in the gym at 5:30. And the reason why I do it first thing is because I believe how you start your day is how you'll finish it. So I get in there and I know I'm going to have a positive dopamine release because working out is a type of hormetic stress. It's positive stress. We have to subject our bodies to it. And that's our bodies and minds, and that's how we grow. There is good stressors, and that's one of them. So I go to the gym, I get the workout in, I come back, and then I eat, a really healthy, nutritious meal right out the gate. So I'm giving my body what it needs physically. And I now know as I go throughout my day that now I'm already in a positive mindset. I'm energized. And so from the moment I pick up my phone to start my day with work, I'm already on a better note. I'm already going to be exuding out positivity. And I would say that, as far as the playbook goes, you gotta, you have to do the work, but you also gotta put in place some structure, around your life. Really take some time to step back and say, what is it that's going to work for me? But I think, again, for majority of people, if you just wake up, and say you got to get into work by 8 a.m. and you set your alarm for 7:30, you're going to get up, you're going to be in a rush, you're going to skip breakfast, you're going to, throw on your clothes, you might forget something on the way out, you're going to be racing to get to work on time. You're already on edge. And how do you think you're going to present yourself to others? You're going to just exude out this very chaotic energy, and you're not going to be able to be the best version of yourself. Well, naturally, what you give is what you'll receive. So people will end up giving that right back to you. And then you're going to sit there at the end of the day and think that your entire day was chaotic. And this is so stressful. I wish, I could, just be in a better state of mind. And you can be. And you just got to start in the morning. And everybody can. There are very few people that I've met that actually don't have enough time in the day to get a good workout in the morning. I know some people that they're very busy, but I'm like, how bad do you want it? Yeah. You can set your alarm. I know people that get up at 3:30 and they go, well, that's so early. Yeah. And they do it. And so go to bed at 8 p.m. Well, I can't go to bed at 8 p.m. because why? Because you think you're missing out on something? I used to have that FOMO, but I realize now it's like I'm going to bed at 9 p.m., 9:30 maybe. And honestly, whatever happens past that point, if it's meant for me, it'll happen at an earlier stage and earlier time in the day. And if it won't, then it's probably not for me anyways. So I'm like, there's really nothing great happening after 9:30 p.m. That's at least not. That's long-term gratifying. I mean, there's a lot of short-term gratifiers that happen after 9:30. But again, you're just gonna you start dipping into those things. You're gonna now you're gonna be losing sleep. You're gonna be out of your routine, and these things all add up. I just told you before we hopped on air here. I got back from Durango, and I stayed up 2 hours later, and here I am 3 days later, and I'm still in a haze because I'm off my routine. And you could be off your routine by 30 minutes to an hour on sleep, and it will completely throw off your energy levels. Yeah. Completely.
Yeah, that's some really good stuff. And I think, even conversations around just having a routine, like you're talking about, have become like taboo, right? And again, you have all these men that I'm convinced are all just incredibly insecure and very scared of life, right? That love to hate on these kind of things. But the fact of the matter is they're cliches for a reason. It's because they work, right? So I appreciate you sharing a little bit more about your morning routine. Mm-hmm. I want to talk about The Bachelor. Mm-hmm. Okay, we can't do this whole episode without talking about The Bachelor because this is maybe the most like controversial show in the history of television, potentially.
That's why it's been on for so long. It's still successful. Take
me to the beginning. Like, how did this all happen? I want to hear about the selection process, to the time that you get there, to the first day that you meet all these smoking hot women. Like what is this like, dude?
Yeah, well, I guess the catalyst for everything was I was in Columbia, Missouri. I was 28 years old, and I remember I hit my 28th birthday, and I had what I called a quarter-life crisis. I just remember sitting there thinking, this can't be it. There's got to be more to life. I'm financially, I'm well off, but I'm not really challenging myself. I've been doing this job for 5 years now, and I can literally just coast throughout the rest of my life. And that didn't sit right with me. I saw my whole future played out. I mean, I was going to take over the senior reps territory. I was going to be making $350, $400K, at 30 years old, and I could have retired, at 40 if I wanted to, and done whatever I wanted to do. $400K in Missouri goes a lot farther than it does in Scottsdale. But I just was not okay with it. Yeah. And that's what I thought was such a shock. I'm like, how are you freaking out? You feel like there's more for you? It's all right here. But internally, I felt that I was destined for more. I just thought that I could take myself up a few more levels. And I thought, this environment's not going to do it for you. You got to really push yourself. And so I started looking for a job elsewhere. I was looking in St. Louis, and then my brothers moved out to Scottsdale. So I was looking in Scottsdale as well. And then I got a DM from a recruiter. Timing's everything. And this recruiter reached out and said, hey, I work for this production company. What are your thoughts of possibly coming on reality television on The Bachelorette? So that was one of 30 men fighting for the love of one woman. And I knew the show because my ex-girlfriends watched it. My mom watched it religiously. And I thought, I'll just entertain this. But I'm looking for another job. I'll just probably entertain it for the sake of just having something to entertain. But they just kept coming back. They kept coming back. And then I actually had a job offer in my email. For another medical sales company. And I went to my boss and told him I was going to take the job. And he said, with what company? And I told him in the position. And it was in the same territory as my boss where he was. And he said, don't take that. It's not what you think it is. I'm just looking out for you. Like it's not the opportunity that they've made it out to be. You should go ask them and just see if they're going to have these players still in the game. So I went back to him. Sure enough, they didn't give me the full story. So I thought, oh, well, I can't take this job. Well, then meanwhile, my boss is now like, well, are you going to leave? Because now obviously you're looking for, employment elsewhere. So now we feel like we might have to fill your spot. How do we know you're not going to move somewhere else? That bit of instability is what it took for me to make that leap, because the one thing that was stable in that moment was that damn recruiter was just like, hey, kept still coming back, still here. We want to bring you on. So just let us know and we're good to go. And if that job offer would have been what I thought it was, no way would I have ever taken that opportunity for reality television. Because I that was so out of my comfort zone. Yeah. That I would have just taken the job in St. Louis and played it safe. But because I was, in rocky waters, and I'm like, my job is going to try to fill my spot. I have no stability right now. That's what I needed to make that leap. So it actually worked out really well. I took that leap. I went in that first day, and I'll never forget. There was this guy. He went by the name Pizza Pete, And I come out of the limo and I get hit with like, there's just lights. I can't even see the Bachelorette. I step out of the limo and it's just, there's just cameras everywhere, lights. And I remember I'm walking up to her and it felt like an eternity. And I remember thinking, like, am I swaying my arms too much? Like, am I taking too big of strides? Because again, also in the people pleaser, I realized that every inch of me was going to be captured.
Yeah.
And so I hit this panic mode. I'm like, oh my gosh, like everything is going to be, just going to be just magnified, and they're going to be able to pick up anything I do wrong. They're going to be able to pick it up. So I walk up to her. I don't even know if I even said my name to her. I just went straight into like my spiel, and I kind of blacked out mentally. And then I go downstairs. And about 10, 15 minutes later, this guy, he goes, "Buongiorno." And he's at the top of the stairs and he runs down the steps. He's like, "I'm Pizza Pete." And I remember just thinking,
Is this a contestant?
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. This guy was just, confident as can be, and he made for TV. And I remember when he came down the steps, I had that first thought. I said, "Get out of here. Like, run, get out. You're in the wrong environment. Like, these guys are built for this moment. They're here. Look at the confidence they're bringing. Like, you are so out of your element. Leave." So I tried to find my producer and I could not find her. And
You were actually going to leave?
yeah, I tried to leave 6 times that first night. And, but there was for a couple times, about 2 or 3 of the times I couldn't find my producer. And then I just got sidetracked by a couple guys that I started chatting them up, and they started to call me back down. I didn't tell them I was looking to leave. I was just having conversation while I was like looking around while I'm talking to them, like, where's she at? But then they just kept talking to me, and I'm like, oh, these guys, he's pretty cool. Okay, he's pretty cool too. Okay, these guys are kind of normal. Okay, they're normal. All right, where's she at? Jess, where are you at? So I'm like trying to find my producer still. And then I got in front of her, and she was, finally she comes to me and she's like, "Okay, we're going to have you go and do this, this, and this. Like, are you ready to go?" And she just tells me, "All right, you're about to go up and talk to her." And in that moment, the people pleaser is like, I can't tell her I want to leave right now, because like she's super excited. I'm right about to go talk to the Bachelorette. So I was like, okay, I'll go do this. So I just kept getting hit with things that like wouldn't let me just be like, hey, pause for a second. This thing's moving really quickly. Can I leave? So yeah, before I knew it, the night one was over, and I'm like,
I'm still here.
I'm still here. I got a rose. That wasn't as bad as I thought. I'm still way out of my element. These guys are, I think they have stuff that I don't have. There's just, they have this charisma to them, this confidence that I don't possess.
Yeah.
So, but I just said, Clayton, give it one more day. And that's the way that I carried myself through that entire season of The Bachelorette, was just one more day.
Which was 2 months. Was this 60 days of?
The whole season runs 2 months, but I only made it a month before she sent me home.
Yeah.
So
you got about halfway through.
I got halfway through. But the pivotal, life-changing moment came through a producer by the name of Alana. And she was... she had a reputation about her that she could pull the drama out of people, but she changed my life. And because she basically pulled me aside one day, and she went straight at my ego, or my sense of safety. I was playing it too safe. She came up to me and she said, "What are you going to go talk to Michelle about, the Bachelorette?" I said, "I'm just going to make small talk." She goes, No, it's too boring. You should come up with something fun." I said, "Like what?" So we start talking back and forth, and she's like, "You should do this idea." And I'm like, No. I'm not going to do that. That would be corny. She's like, No, girl. Like, I'm a girl. Like, I could tell you it would work really well. I said, "No, I'm not doing that. So I'm going to go do a small talk." She goes, "Okay, I'm going to come back in 30 minutes and we'll see if you'll do it then." So she leaves, comes back. She's like, "You going to do it?" I was like, "No, I'm still going to do the small talk." She goes, "Cool. I'll come back in 30 minutes. She comes back, and I'm like, I'm ready to go talk to her. I was like, "We're not going to keep doing this." And she said, "Clayton," she goes, "I'm telling you right now, you go do the small talk thing that you're going to do, and you'll have your small talk moment, and then the next guy's going to come up and she'll forget about you." She goes, "Or you can for once go out of your comfort zone and just trust someone else in your own life and give it a chance and see where it goes." And I said, "But what if it doesn't work out?" She said, "Then come find me and tell me how stupid of an idea it was." And she said, "But if it does work out, then you better come find me and let me know as well." And I said, "I don't know if I want to do this." And she said, "Will you just try? Just do it once right now." And I said, "Okay, fine." Like I said, "Because if I don't do it, are you going to tell me you're going to give me 30 more minutes?" She goes, "Yeah, I'm going to walk away and come back in 30 minutes. You're going to do it." And I said, "Fine, I'll do it." I said, "But I don't want it to look stupid." She said, "Then don't." She goes, "I already know that you won't make it look stupid because you don't want to look dumb." So she goes, "I know you'll make it your own. So go make it as best as you can. Make it the most seamless, smooth conversation you can make it. She goes, just promise me that you'll do that. I said, absolutely. I don't want to look dumb. She goes, okay, great. So we came up with this idea to go talk to the Bachelorette, and long story short, it was the perfect conversation. It led to the first time that the Bachelorette and I kissed on camera, and it was just this natural, just smooth conversation, and it just was the catalyst for everything else to come. I walked off after the 30-minute conversation. I walk around the corner. She's standing there. She's smiling. She said, go ahead and tell me. I said, you were right. And she said, that's what I thought. She's like, are you going to trust me from here forward? I said, absolutely. She's like, all right. She's like, let's have some fun with this. And from that point forward, I came out of my shell and I started just like enjoying the moment, and I stopped living in my head, and I was just going at it and just like, hey, this idea, let's come up with this idea. Let's just have fun. Like, we're on a TV show. Let's just have fun. Yeah. And I started letting my true self just come out, and the creative side of me that I suppressed my entire life started to come out, and I started to just create stuff. And they saw that, and they saw the potential in me. I think they saw the potential in me when they brought me on the show. They're like, we see something in this guy. Then they saw like my weaknesses and insecurities, and they said, okay, we just got to get him beyond this point.
Unlock it. Yeah.
And unlock it. And when they unlocked it, it just unleashed this monster, but this monster that had so much potential. And they're like, wow, we can tap into this guy. But I think they still knew the insecurities that I had. And they said, okay, if we need to go to that step, we can also expose that.
Thank you to our sponsors over at New Level Wellness. I absolutely love this company. I love the way they take care of me. I do all of my testosterone replacement therapy there and other supplementation. They're timely. They give you panels next day, and they ship anywhere in the U.S. next day with all your supplementation. New Level also offers world-class weight loss services. So they have things like semaglutide and Mounjaro and other peptides that are changing millions of people's lives now around the US, and these guys are the best when it comes to that. So for any of your health or wellness needs, whether it's weight loss, whether it's your skin, whether it's supplementation to get your hormones on track, New Level is definitely the place to go. They'll actually, on your first visit, do your blood work for free as the sponsors to the show, and you won't be disappointed by working with them. So tell me how much of this show, I'm not candidly super familiar with the show, but we have a pretty large women audience that I think probably know the show a lot better than I do, right? Mm-hmm. So, but like behind the scenes, is this show really about love, or is this 90% Hollywood, 10% reality? Like, help me understand, is most of this stuff put together, scripted, et cetera, until you get to a certain point in the show? Or
so it all depends upon the lead and what the lead's looking to get out of it. The show is going to try to make it as dramatic as possible. I mean, that they have a job. Their job is to make the show as entertaining as possible.
Yeah, they don't care about
entertainment first, love second.
Yeah,
and that's just the reality. I mean, that's not. I'm not blowing anyone's mind by saying that. Yeah. They have an entertaining TV show to create. But as far as what direction it ultimately goes, it comes down to what the lead puts into it, is what they're going to get out of it. And I genuinely was looking to find somebody. I was skeptical that I'd find it in 30 women. I thought, what are the chances that they're going to find someone for me? But I kept an open mind, and I ultimately went into the experience and thought, I'm going to keep an open mind, and I'm going to believe that this is possible, because if I close off to it, it's not going to be real. Yeah. And so I went in with open mind, and I'd say, everyone asked me, how real is this? And I say, 80% of it was real. 20% of the time I might have had to drum things up a little bit, or, seem like things were great, that they bothered me more than what they did. Yeah. I might've been acting to some degree 20% of the time, but the other 80% was real. And I can say absolutely at the end of it, at the end of the show, I was 100% that was real. There was not a single bit of acting. Everything I was just reacting to. Yeah. I was completely just caught off guard by everything. I was not in the know at all. And so, yeah, I mean, 80-20, if I had to give percentages, it's more real than people realize. I think people think it's a fabricated TV show, and there's very real emotions attached.
Yeah. And you obviously got to experience that on the inverse, right? So let's kind of go to that place. So my understanding is it's pretty uncommon to only get to where you got on your season of The Bachelorette and then become the Bachelor, right? Isn't most of the time the person that becomes the Bachelor or the Bachelorette, they make it to the final like 4 or 5? So how did this happen?
Yeah, and that was a very big pressure point. by the audience. The way they went about casting me was unconventional. The previous guy, actually, he didn't even make it on a season of The Bachelorette. So they just picked him from out of the blue, basically, which was very unconventional. Normally, it's someone in the top 4 that ends up getting chosen. For me, I was knocked out at number 8. And this was where things already, I had a stacked deck of cards against me. And I understood the frustration. The reality was I was chosen over 6 men of color. And that did not sit right with a lot of viewers. Why pick the white guy over 6 men of color? Why? What makes him better than them? And I don't think I was any better than any of those guys. Ultimately, I accepted the role. I didn't take it from them. I was given it as opposed to them having it. But that really already set me up for failure. There was a lot of people that already hated me, that they were like, why the hell was this white guy chosen? And so people already were looking to find anything that they could to hate me. So I was chosen before people even saw me on The Bachelorette. I finished filming my season of The Bachelor before the season of The Bachelorette even aired. So I was chosen way ahead of time, before anyone even got to see me. And then with the issue of me being a white male, chosen over men of color, it just already compounded. Now you had people like, what makes this guy so special that you picked him at number 8? And so I had a very critical lens placed upon me, and I think the show at one point tried to get people to be on my side, but people just weren't. They never came around. Yeah, they just
realized let's do the other.
So the show realizes they at the end of the day they just need a drastic emotion to be pulled out. So love or hate.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. The show realized we can't make the audience love this guy, so let's go the alternate route. Let's make them hate him.
Yeah.
And I don't. You know what? It's a business. Those producers, I struggle with it because I met their families. I experienced these different locations around the world with them, and I had very genuine conversations. I cried with them, I laughed with them, but ultimately I felt betrayed at the end of it all, when I felt like they just stabbed me in the back and made me look like this terrible human being that had no regard for other people's opinions or didn't care for anyone's well-being. And I was just some asshole that was a jock that always got what he wanted. And I felt betrayed because I'm like, that's not who I am. I'm really what I am at my core is I'm a very insecure individual that doesn't know who I am and went and trying to please everybody. Yeah. And ultimately I didn't please anyone, not even myself. I just made a massive train wreck. But the show, what are they going to do? Take all that film and not air it?
Yeah.
Ultimately they had it all captured. And if they decided to put the human over the show, they'd be fired because someone above them would say, how dare you have all this film and you not show it? Like, show it for what it is. This is going to really captivate people. Yeah. And if they didn't do it, someone else would. So, I have no resentment towards them. Ultimately, that's just a TV show that has to be entertaining.
I mean, look, there's probably a million ways we can take this conversation, but do you have any regrets specifically around women that you sent home early that maybe you wish you would have kept around longer?
Yeah. No regret. I can't, I really have, I went back and forth this, but ultimately I can't really say I regret anything, because if I regret something, then ultimately I will wish that I could be a different version of myself. Yeah. So I choose to not have regrets in life, because I say that everything that I did shaped me into who I am today. Yeah. And if I'm going to find a version of self-love that I can carry with me, then I have to love me for everything that I am, which means I have to ultimately be okay with coming to terms with everything that I did. Yeah. Because one different action would have led to a different version of me. So I'm choosing to not have any regrets. With that being said, were there people that I sent home that I think would have been a better match for me long term? Absolutely. I sent some people home. I think Do
you think they know?
Do I think they know that there could have been something more there?
Yeah. Like, do you think they know that you have this feeling still today?
Mm-mm. No, because this is a tough one to navigate. I have so much love for Susie, the girl that I ended up with. Yeah. I mean, she really saved my life at certain points. She really helped grow me into somebody that I am today, and I couldn't have done it without her. I believe that, people that you meet in your lifetime, some are meant to be, temporary. Not everyone's meant to be permanent. And that goes for relationships as well. And she was meant to be a temporary, intimate relationship. And ultimately I have so much love for her, and respect. But her and I both know that we were not meant for each other, that we had a lot of differences. And ultimately, after we got through a portion of our life where it was very traumatic, we only she knew what I was going through, and only I knew what she was going through, because we went through such a unique experience. But once that ended, we ultimately realized, like, we can't stay together. It's not meant to be. I guess I say all that because I'm still very mindful of her feelings. Ultimately, she's with someone and she's happy right now. I don't want to say, though, that I should have been with anybody else other than her. I know I was meant to be with her and only her, because she was going to be the only person to get me to where I am today. Yeah. But if I had to sit here and say, was there someone that I could have probably connected with more on a romantic level and had been a better match for me? Yeah, absolutely. There's someone that comes to mind for sure. And I think I think I knew day one. But ultimately, things weren't meant to be. This person's really happy now. They're with somebody. So we were never meant to be together. But I think my intuition picked up on it night one, and knew that she was probably the best fit for me. But the environment was too much for her. And ultimately, she was not okay with all the other women being around. I saw that at the time as being an insecurity. But now I realize, like, how can you blame someone for not being okay with watching other people kiss, the person that they are falling for? Yeah. So, yeah, unfortunately, I saw it as an insecurity. I saw it as a weakness, and I started to distance myself from that individual on the show. Now they're happily in a relationship, and I'm like, oh, wow. Actually, I think they were looking for something serious, and they probably would have been a good match for you. But you just got lost in the experience.
You still think about this person? Or is it sort of like, it's done, it's over,
no, it's
there's
done.
Yeah.
It's done. She's happy. She's with someone. I just, if I have those moments where I'm like, your intuition told you night one that she was something more special than then you lost sight of it through the show. All the distractions of the show caused you to start to place value in different areas. And something that was, that someone was struggling with, that was an insecurity, rightfully so. They're on this crazy TV show that's not at all how reality is. Yeah. And I just think, I'm like, man, if that would have been out in the real world, how would that have, transpired? But the reality is it wasn't. So I don't think about this person because it just wasn't meant to be. If it was meant to be, I would have met her on the outside.
You think she would be surprised that you feel that way? Like if you, and I'm not going to ask you to say the name. I actually don't want you to say the name. I think, but
most people can extrapolate at this point. I've given enough clues.
Okay. Yeah. So if you were to say her name, would she be surprised by this?
Probably, yeah. But I don't think it would be helpful. I don't think there'd be any positive that would come out of me saying it. Because I've already said enough where people are going to be able to extrapolate this out. And this is something I've never even mentioned, but what purpose does it serve? I think she's happy. I don't want her. I mean, and I think she's probably would go, oh wow, it's interesting, and I would hope for her to just go, that's interesting, okay, and just move on. Yeah. I don't want it to be any more significant to her because I don't think it needs to be. It shouldn't be. So, if she was single, then that maybe this conversation would be worth having, but it's not, and I don't want to do anything to jeopardize someone's happiness, which seems like she's captured that. Yeah.
So let's talk about this, right? You get to the final episode, which I didn't understand this, but you said you record for 2 months. You take a 2-month break, a 4-month break. How long is that break between the season sort of wrapping and then recording the last episode?
Yeah. Main portion of the season wrapped after 2 months of filming, and there's a 4-month delay, and then there's a episode that's filmed a week before it's aired, and then there's an episode that's filmed live. So all in all, the whole film process goes 6 months because after the 2 months of filming, traveling around the country, I had 4 months where I was basically doing interviews nonstop. Yeah. So off camera for the show's purpose, but we were still doing some filming here and there. But it was about 6 month process as far as from the first airtime to the finale.
So I understand this. There's 2 women left before that 4-month gap happens, right? or is there 4?
Well, so the 4-month gap really at that point. So in the 2 months, the initial 2 months, you end up with somebody.
Okay, the show is done.
The show
you've either selected
but there's the follow up 2 episodes basically. I have to talk to it's called the women tell
after
all.
the final rose, or
After the
women
final
tell-
rose is
okay.
where like it's basically a follow up with where is Clayton at now? Who's he with, or is he not with somebody?
Got it.
And where are the other women at?
Okay.
And so that's but after the initial 2 months of filming, I was seeing Susie, for those 4 months before the show aired. We were doing our little secret getaways. I'd fly into LA, she'd fly in, we'd spend time in a house together for 3-4 days every 2 weeks or whatever.
Not going out at all.
Because you can't really. I mean, we had everything. We had someone bring us food. I mean, that we had to get stuff dropped off at the front. We couldn't be seen, together. We couldn't walk outside those doors. We were locked into these. They're not, granted, they were nice houses. They were compounds. I mean,
so they provide that for you.
Yeah,
the show.
Yeah. So we were in these compounds, these giant multi-million-dollar homes, and so they had these large. They had these high walls with greenery, so like no one could see us. One day, actually, somebody was filming something over the wall, and so we had to make a phone call, and I was like, I think it's gonna get spoiled, because the whole point is like you don't want it to be spoiled until the finale.
Ruins everything.
Yeah. So at one point, someone was filming, come to find out it was just a neighbor that was just curious why we were running around like there. We had a camera on us, but they were filming us while we were being filmed. But the show is super protective. Like they don't want that getting out, right? So, we were doing all that in the meantime until the final episode aired.
Talk to me about the final rose, right? So something, for those who don't know The Bachelor or haven't watched the show or didn't see your season, something pretty unique happens that last night, right? Where essentially you walk away empty-handed, right? So what happened on that last night? What sort of emotions are you experiencing as you go through this?
You're talking about, was it after the fight with Susie? Is that what you're talking about when we were airing, and like why she ends up, or at the very end of like the main part of the season? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
That last rose ceremony.
Yeah.
Right. There's one rose left. You've got 2 women to choose from.
Well, so that's not, see for me. So I only had 1 rose left. There wasn't 2 women at that point. So
didn't you ask one to leave?
I broke up with 2 women at the same time, which was people did not like. So basically,
So you only had 1 contestant left.
That was it, yeah. And I was basically, I already knew in my eyes, like the writing was on the wall. As far as like that, final rose, I knew she'd show up because I knew it was in her character to show up, but I knew she was going to basically tell me this can't work. And so, I sent the other 2 women home like 2 days prior, and I had a last ditch effort to try to, fight for Susie and say, hey, I want to try to make this work. And she was like, I can't move forward with you. But then once I will say it was very like theatrical or like very cinematic. I'll never forget. She goes out to the car. I say my goodbyes, and she leaves, and I'm in Iceland, and it's just downpouring. It's just a heavy rain. And I mean, it's as cinematic as it gets. I'm out there in the rain in a full-on suit, cars driving off. Yeah, I'm just getting soaked. And I just remember staring at that car as it went off in the distance. And I sat there for probably 15 minutes. I was just staring, and I could not believe my reality was I became the Bachelor. And at the end of it all, I still ended up alone. I still wasn't enough. Yeah. And I remember that thought in my head, just as I watched the car go off into the distance, that once again, Clayton, you had every chance in the world to be enough in the eyes of somebody, and you weren't. And it hurt. And it just, I remember I finally walked inside, and I just started crying. I just was like, it's never going to be enough. You can be given an opportunity on a golden platter, and you're the first Bachelor to end up having his final rose rejected.
Yeah.
So that was tough.
So what are you doing now? When was this, by the way? This was 2 years ago?
Yeah.
And so maybe take me through, right? You have this moment, right, where you feel like you're not enough. This is probably very painful. Half the Bachelor Nation or more hates you. They think you're an idiot. They think you're all the things. Mm-hmm. How do you navigate that situation over the next 1 to 2 years to get to where we're at today?
I mean, the first thought came to mind was just chaotically. was not ready for the fame. I wasn't ready for that spotlight. And so every move I made was under a microscope. I started trying to address my ego. So I went to therapy. I started listening to mental health podcasts. I started diving deep into self-improvement. And I tried to basically go back to a normal life. I thought, okay, let me just go back and build from the ground up. But every action I took was on display for everybody. Like, for example, I tried to date this girl, or I was talking to her and I was interested in dating her. And we basically started DMing each other, and I flew out to see her in Kentucky, and we go to a basketball game. I get thrown up on the jumbotron, and then they had a dance off, and I was dancing, and I was having a good time. But then that went online, and it was like, oh, Clayton's talking to this person, and I'm like, man, like. Not even 24 hours later, and it's already up on social media now. People can see who I'm talking to, and it's just like. And then after we didn't work out, I went on the apps. My profile got picked up and basically put on TikTok.
Someone screenshot it,
put it up, and people were going after me because I said I was moderate, with my political preferences, and like, oh, he's actually just conservative, and he's just too afraid to admit he is, and he's probably a hardcore Republican. And I was just getting attacked. And then I had people saying, oh, how embarrassing that like he has to stoop to this level to go back on, these apps after being, the Bachelor, like what a fall from grace. And I just remember being blown away. I'm like, how, you're telling me it's a fall from grace that I'm going back on a dating app like the rest of you, and I'm somehow expected to be up on this pedestal as if I'm better? Like, I'm not. I'm just me. And I'm trying to live my life. But like, it's embarrassing for me to be dating amongst normal people. I mean, I struggled because I thought, where am I supposed to be? Where am I going to be accepted? I can't even just go date again. I have to like date someone that has a blue check mark. Because the first girl that in Kentucky, she was successful, sports anchor, sportscaster, very beautiful girl. And so whenever that popped out, everyone was like, yeah, that makes sense. She's got 100,000 followers or whatever. She's extremely beautiful. Like, this is what we expect. So then I go on the apps and everyone's like, whoa, what a fall from grace, dude. He's like dating. Yeah, and I couldn't understand it. And I was like, who can I be? I just want to be me. I don't think I'm special. I was just the crazy one to go on reality television.
Yeah.
So I grappled with that for, and I still do to some day, still to this day. People come up to me and like, I can't believe I'm meeting the Bachelor. Like, oh my gosh, like this is so crazy. And I'm like, I'm just me. I'm just a dude. And by the end of the conversation, they're like, you're just a normal guy. Like, and it's almost like, in a way, it's not, I mean, and one end of it, they're like, oh, it's just cool, like just talking to just like a normal person. But the other end of it, I think sometimes people are almost like, oh, that was anticlimactic. I met the Bachelor. He's just a normal guy from Missouri. Yeah. So even in those moments, I'm like, did I not live up to their expectation? Like, I was this, this star, and then all of a sudden, like, wait, you're just a normal guy. Okay, that's not exciting anymore. So I grappled with all that, but where I'm at today, I'm just like, you know what, Clayton, just be you, and you'll attract whatever you're meant to attract, and be grateful for the people that come up that are excited to meet you. But don't get lost in the spotlight. Don't get lost in all the distractions. And Scott still has plenty of them. So I got sucked into that vortex, and I was spinning around partying, doing VIP, meet and greets, and ultimately I started getting surrounded by a bunch of shallow individuals that just wanted to use me for my credibility. And then when that shine wore off, they were no more. They were all gone. Yeah. So I'm just trying to find my way now, and I'm just building a small circle of people around me that have a similar mindset, and just being as authentic as I can be, and that's where I'm going to find my happiness.
Clayton, what do you think is your deepest insecurity now in your life?
I guess it's still got to be. I mean, I by no means have mastered that feeling of inadequacy. That's still my biggest insecurity. I still don't have it figured out. The things that I share it for other people so that they can learn, but I also share it to try to basically really hammer down what it is that I'm still trying to grasp. Yeah. So I still feel inadequate. I still wake up and I think that I could be doing more. And I struggle with that. People say, how he can't be telling us what to do when he still hasn't figured it out. And there's days where I'm like, that's right. But then I'm like, no, like I'm sharing my moments of vulnerability. I don't have it figured out, but I'm willing to admit that. So yeah, I still feel inadequate. And I just have to keep choosing every day to wake up and believing I'm enough. And so that's just a conscious choice I'm working on.
Thank you to our sponsors over at Bucked Up. I love this company. I love their products, their apparel, and their supplements. Recently, they dropped the mother of all pre-workouts, Mother Bucker. This is not for the faint of heart. This will make you want to claw your face off. So don't get stuck in traffic when you're headed to the gym. I love these guys. I love this company, and I love their products. They are clearly the best tasting pre-workout on the entire market, and they're number one for a reason. Bucked Up is my favorite workout brand, hands down. And they also have my favorite apparel for working out and just for daily life. It's Lululemon-like quality, but for a fraction of the price that's affordable. So head over to their site, buckedup.com, where you can check it out. And for 20% off their entire site, use the code TylerHall20. Yeah. It's amazing, man. And it requires a ton of work. And by the way, nobody's there. Nobody's perfect. Yeah. Right. And even the guru's guru, right? These people don't have it fully figured out. Mm-hmm. It's a constant progression. I totally commend you for just recognizing that and being willing to do the work, right? Yeah. It's hard. It's not easy. Even if it's in private, it's hard because facing yourself is much harder than facing the world at the end of the day, right? So, so one of the things that you're known for now is, you've picked up dancing, and I think it's like bold, brave, silly, dumb. I think it's a lot of words, right? When I watch you dance, I'm just like, what? But I want to kind of do that, and that's cool. But it's like weird, and so. Yeah. I
appreciate the honesty. Yeah.
I mean, listen, it is what it is, right? What is it about dancing for you? I mean, is it an expression of who you are, how you feel inside? Do you enjoy the cardio? Like, what is it about dancing that, you're taking it pretty seriously? I mean, you're putting in the work.
Yeah. Everyone thinks that it's my bid to be on Dance with the Stars. It has nothing to do with that. I mean, sure, if they want to bring me on, I'll do it. But that's not my reason. Yeah. Like every year, they pick someone else, and people go, "Oh, I wonder if I'll keep dancing." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to keep dancing." This has nothing to do with me just getting my fame on another TV show. To me, it's a positive form of movement. It's just movement. It's a positive stress reliever. It's something that I can work toward that I'm very aware of. I'm not good at. I am extremely stiff. All these things that people say, you got to loosen up. I'm like, no shit. I'm very aware of that. I don't think I'm not paying attention to how I dance. But for me, it gives me something where what I love about dance is it's not just dance. It's a way of life. And what I love is when I go show up, it's just me versus me. I love how the dance studios have mirrors, because it's you looking at you, and it's trying to get a little bit better than you were before you came in. Yeah. And it's about showing up consistently. And the only way you get better is if you just keep showing up. And there are days when I don't want to show up because sometimes I make tremendous progress, and some days multiple times I go to dance and I'll have 2 weeks of just being stagnant. Some days I can't even dance because I have so much on my mind. I end up just basically blabbing the entire time. And my instructor, she's incredible. She's super into mental health as well. So sometimes she's my therapist. And at the end of the day, she knows what I need. So some days we just have to sit and talk, because I can't dance if I can't get out of my head. I have to be able to let go and just be there in that moment. So to me, it's healing. Dance it's just there's the physical component, the mental component, but at the end of the day, it's just me versus me. If I become a better dancer, it's because I put the work in. It has nothing to do with anybody else. I'm in an industry where real estate relies on other people. I need them to want to buy a house, so I'm at the mercy of them. Solar sale, same thing. Like, I'm at the mercy of them saying, hey, I want solar on my house. Yeah. So these things move forward when they're ready to. But what I love about dancing is it's like, I move forward when I'm ready to, but I got to put the work in. But if you put the work in, the results come. That's why I love dance. Yeah.
I think most people that spend time on social media creating content have a love-hate relationship with social media, right? Mm-hmm. I want to ask you a question. Like, does social media do more good or produce more bad and evil for individuals and for the world? And I want you to rank this on like -10 being bad and evil and +10 being good. Like, where would you rank it?
As a whole, social media is, I would put it at a -8, -9 as a whole. I think it's destroying people. I think it has the potential to be in the positives, absolutely. But in order for it to be positive, people need to wake up to what social media is doing to them. The Social Dilemma, that documentary is absolutely incredible. And I would recommend everyone go watch it, because it will give you an understanding of what, how they crafted these algorithms to basically make you become addicted to it, to where you can't put it down. Yeah. And that's what these engineers were, that's what they were asked to do. Create something that is so addictive that people can't live without it. And that now everyone's on it, and everyone scrolls for hours and hours and hours, and it wrecks their mental health, because they click on someone that has a life that they find interesting, and then it reminds them they don't have that life. And then the algorithm goes, oh, I saw you clicked on that person, let me give you 10 more. And so they give 10 more, and then before you know it, there's that inadequacy that individual goes, I just looked at 20 people in the last hour that have something I don't, and my life sucks. And if you're not understanding that these algorithms are set up to make you become addicted to it and to lead you down a path, they don't care if they're leading you down a negative path. They just want to keep you on there as long as they can, because the longer you're on there, the more they learn about you, the more they can sell all of your information to third parties, and the more they can get you to click on advertisements so they can make their money. But it's fascinating how, if you take a hiatus from the app, that's fine. They'll send you an email. So now the email is saying, hey, here's what's going on. And so they have stages.
You remember us? Yeah.
Yeah. But if you're clicking on the app every day, they don't send the emails. So they have different stages of, if you seem to take a break, we're going to get you through other avenues. Yeah. It's just preying on people that have no sense of understanding of what's happening. And so it's very destructive. And I think, it's sad, because there's this young generation that, it's like, if you're not on social media, well, all your friends are. So you're going to feel alone. You're going to feel isolated. But the problem is these kids aren't aware of what it's doing to them, and adults. It's a time sucker. And the longer people spend on social media, the less time they have to better their own lives. And a lot of times people feel worse than when they were on it. So to me, as a whole, -8. For me, what I can utilize it for, I put it as a neutral 0. I think it's a tool. I see the value in it. I can reach a wide audience. I can impact a lot of people, but it's damaging to my mental health. If you gave me $1 billion, I'd be much less active. I wouldn't be posting as much. Yeah. Truthfully, I selfishly post because I'm trying to. Where else am I going to get 500,000 people to look at to look at a video that I post? And get 500,000 eyes in 24 hours. Yeah. I mean, I'd be a fool to not be utilizing that avenue.
Yeah. But it's validation. It's potential business opportunity in the future as you're building your audience, continue to build your brand, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, man. It's a double-edged sword. I mean, I find myself probably once a week I'll log into social media. I try to have this mantra, which is creation over consumption. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as long as I'm creating more and putting more out there than I'm taking in, then for me, I'm winning. Like that's the metric, right? Yep, yeah. However, once a week, I'll log into social media and I'll spend 5 or 10 minutes on there and just go, what did I just put in my brain? Yeah. I just put so much trash in my brain from a bunch of pretenders. Yeah. At the end of the day, people that aren't actually living the life or doing the things that they claim they're doing. Mm-mm. And we get sucked into it and we believe it, and then we feel inadequate and we have mental health issues, and it's an issue, man. Yeah. Yeah. That nice car you see is probably rented for the day. I mean, these guys talk about, just follow me and buy my program. And I'm 25 years old and I got a Lambo, and of course you go, well, I'm 30 and I don't have one. So obviously I haven't figured it out. One. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe I should follow this person because they're 25 years old and they got a Lambo. Like, that's crazy. But it's all, again, someone's putting up a facade, and it ultimately does benefit them. I just heard somebody that said they bought a Ferrari and they watched their business take off because they started posting about it, and people started to attribute success to them because, well, someone that isn't successful is not going to have a Ferrari.
So they said, this is a real estate agent that said that they actually saw an uptick in their business because they would do open houses, and all of a sudden, the people would come in the house and they'd say, "Hi, do you take on clients like me?" Now they were asking them, like, "I saw the Ferrari out front. So do you take on clients like me?" And he said that it led to this like massive boost in his business. And I struggle with that because I have a Tiguan, Volkswagen Tiguan. It's people call it the hot mom car. It's a white car with black rims, but there's a part of me that's like, that does work. I mean, the superficial can actually, change people's opinions.
I don't know, bro. I don't know.
I don't think it's smart long term, but like it can work, but can you back it up? Do you have a Ferrari mindset? Do you have the acumen to back it up and say, no, hey, like I have a Ferrari, but I also can provide a service that's worthy of owning a Ferrari. I'm not some gimmicky agent that just rented this thing out or is leasing it. So you got to be able to back it up. If you're gonna drive a Ferrari, I mean, you better be able to show people that like, hey, I earned this. But it just is what it is. I mean, again, someone like you, I can tell, very intellectual human being, you can see right through that. But sometimes I grapple with the fact of, should I, try to play that game? Because if it's not going to hurt me, if it can help me, then I don't know. It's like maybe it helps fast forward or speed up what I'm trying to accomplish. It's hard because especially in an environment like Scottsdale.
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Here's why. I think that so there's a framework that I teach. It's called Wear No Masks, right? And the idea is CEOs specifically struggle with this because the CEO is the center of a wheel of constituents that matter. This could be investors, advisors, employees, customers, partners, the public perception of you, and the list goes on, right? And the CEO, depending on who he's interfacing with or she's interfacing with that day, we walk into our closet, we grab the investor mask, we put it on, and hey, everything's great. Investors, your money is safe with us. And then I go put on my customer hat and hey, Mr. Customer. And then I go put on my employee hat and hey, and then I put on my spouse mask and it's like, maybe it's a little more genuine and it's, hey, things are actually not as rosy as you think, right? My belief, Clayton, and I have really good data to back this up, is that the people who win, specifically, again, long game player, right? Medium and long term are the ones that don't wear masks. Yeah. So there is no mask, there is no pretending, there is no facades, there's none of that. It's I am who I am, and you choose me because you feel that. Yeah. Because you know that I'm legit and I'm comfortable with who I am, and I'm looking for other people that's what they want, right? Yeah. And I think most people optimize for authenticity over anything else, right? You might trick a few people, but I think authenticity always wins. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. Yeah. Sometimes I wonder if like playing, there's a small minority, I think, that really understands life and really truly lives an authentic life. Yeah. And the large majority doesn't. So there's those moments where I think, well, the large majority is the individuals that might be following me. So do I cater to that to some degree?
Play the game a little more.
Do I play the game because ultimately it's going to benefit me to a greater ability? Otherwise, if I'm trying to push this authenticity, this mindset that most people don't have, it's probably just going to fall on deaf ears and it's not going to be relatable. And these individuals are going to not watch my content, not engage with it. So therefore, it's just going to end up hurting my platform. So I do have to cater. Well, at least I choose to, I should say. I cater to my audience. I'm like, oh, you want to see me dance? Okay, fine, I'll go dance in the house and so that I'm a realtor. But as far as like what I really want to post about is mental health, and I want to have deep dive discussions, but they just don't perform as well. And so less people click on them, and then it hurts the next video I post, because if the last video didn't do well, the next one won't do well. And so I play this balancing game of, okay, I'll give you what you want, and then I'm also going to sprinkle in what I really like to do. Now, I like dancing, don't get me wrong. But, I would like to also be someone that can impact people by sharing my experience with my mental health. So I play this balancing act just because that's just, otherwise my social media will take a different turn.
I respect it. I want you to pull out your phone. Did you get any buzzes?
I got one. It was on Do Not Disturb, but I know I got.
Okay. How many responses did you get?
I got all four, but one of them, I knew this. I think I told you earlier.
It says like badass motherfucker.
No, he said mom can do it.
Okay.
Now that I mean, again, I love him to death, but I kind of expected that response.
So let me do this.
I got a couple good ones though. I can
earlier in the episode, for those who maybe missed this or haven't been here the whole time, or maybe we're going to clip this, right? Earlier in the episode, what we did was I asked Clayton to text the 4 people who know him the best, who are the closest to him. And I asked him to say, please describe me the way that you would describe me to a stranger, and use as much detail as possible. So why don't you share some of the words that were used by the people that know you and love you the best?
Yeah. Okay, so this one's from my mom. Clayton is determined and perseveres for what he wants in life. He is a hard worker, has a dry sense of humor, and is considerate of others. He's always had a soft spot for the different people. She put that in quotes. And is a very articulate speaker. He loves to talk, and mostly about himself. Sorry, I had to add that last part. She put like a little, kiss emoji. And she put the laughing emoji after he likes to talk about himself.
I love it.
Which, again, she knows me well. I'm trying to be better about listening. That's been something that I really am focusing on, because I did so much talking because I was the Bachelor and I was in front of all these interviews, and I was talking a lot when I was briefly in the NFL and college athlete.
Yeah.
I did all this talking, but I'm like, you know everything that you've said. You keep recycling the same things. I know I need to start listening. So I'm like, the growth is going to come through listening, through hearing other perspectives. So that's a very honest.
I love it,
and I do appreciate that. This is from a really good friend of mine. I would describe you as a talkative, amiable person. I think it means amicable person who is willing to learn and grow. You have evolved to asking questions about others and not speaking about you as much. This new season, you are cheerful and willing to do things without others' approval. You are living your life and on a journey of self-love. Also, your confidence has grown.
Nice.
Yeah. And you can see the commonalities. I'm talkative, but I talked about it. Both the people closest to me said that I talked too much about myself. And I know that was tied up in the people pleaser, me trying to impress people by stating, here's all the things I've done. And so I spent most of my conversations with people trying to impress through really just giving my skill set and my accolades.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know I'm very aware I need to work on that. And it's nice to hear though, like he said, my buddy said, we talk like once every 2 weeks on the phone. And I have now started every time I pick up the phone, I started asking him questions out of the gate. And a few times he's like, no, I want to ask you. I said, no. I said, you can ask me after I'm done asking you. So I started to prioritize it because I realized that like people feel seen and heard, when you just ask them even just a few questions.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been trying to prioritize.
I mean, look, I didn't get all the adjectives, but considerate, articulate, hardworking, amicable, cheerful, full of self-love, confidence. I mean, these are great descriptors, man. And hopefully these, and I missed a bunch from your mom too, that she had quite a long list there, but hopefully these are things that you look at and you read and you say, they're right. And this really is who I am. And, when I read mine to you, there's a little bit of poetry in there, right? So I have a little bit of fun with it, and I challenge you to do the same thing, man. And I hope when you go home and you write down your I am statement, that you share it with me. I'd love to see it. Yeah. I'd love to hold you accountable to doing that work. And then words are powerful, man, right? So I'm not great at this. I have a hard time looking at myself in the mirror and saying, you're the man. It's hard. It's hard for us as men because we do feel these inadequacies and we feel less than, and we beat ourselves up and we're our worst critic. But man, the power of reading that I am statement in the mirror and reinforcing my identity and who I am for myself, and then that's the way I end up showing up to the world. It's powerful. It's life-changing. So I hope you'll do the work.
Absolutely. Yeah, I will. I've always put the work in, so that's something I can do.
Brother, this was amazing. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. This is a great one.